everybody, how are you doing today? In our previous video we took a little look at foundation, we took a little look at fusion, 7 healing in general, and that entailed 12 classes, 12 courses, and what would happen in the duration of the session. Today we're going to look at the foundation course in a little bit more detail. So what is foundation all about? What's its objective? Its objective is to be able to address all different areas of our lives, different areas of our health, many different subjects, multi-dimensional subjects if you will. So somebody could have, for example, an issue with their psychology, with their emotion, their health, their environment, their career, or their relationship. In the foundation course, we are giving the beginning tools to be able to address all of these situations. In order to be able to do this, the first thing that we need to do is to connect to Source. Source is the access point. When we have connected to Source, we can then access the information or the nature of the information that needs to be modified. Once we've accessed this information, we're then able to go to the specific areas in the person's space in order to make the changes. Incidentally, this could be your own space. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are working with somebody else. So you could be the facilitator of your own session, or you could be helping somebody else. It's an either-or situation. So these access points are where? They could be the energy centers, which is another word for chakras or focal harmonic points. It could be the energy fields, which are 7 fields around the body. Each of these access points actually hold a relative amount of information. They're actually like storehouses or warehouses of specific types of information. Another access point is timelines. Timelines could be from the moment you were born to the end of this life, or it could be any other timeline, because we are multidimensional, which means that we exist in other times and places. So we can access a variation of timelines. Another one are soul files. Soul files are quite big. We can access information such as soul lineage, soul constellations, soul history, or even life between life data. So there's another one right there. And then finally, but not least of course, is DNA files. DNA files are really huge, and so this is something that you will learn how to access and how to retrieve information from in the foundation course. Now, out of all of these files, where do we go first? This is another thing that we learn in foundation. So much information, you don't want to get lost in the ocean of all of this information and all of this data. So something that's really significant that we learn to do is to prioritize, and through our source connection is to actually be shown which is the priority to work from, so that we don't get lost in the ocean of data. What kind of information do we access? All sorts of stuff. It could be foreign debris, which is just a fancy way of saying something that's in our space that isn't actually ours. It could be a trauma that we've lived. It could be an injury that has resulted from the trauma that we've lived. It could be memory files, so it could be, for example, cellular memory, an emotional memory, a mental memory, or a psychological memory. Memories can come in many forms, and they can be stored in any of the above files or warehouses that we've spoken of. We may have programs or belief systems, patterns or repetitions, or attachments, etc. So there's such a myriad of different types of information that are stored in all these different places, which again, this is the reason why I'm stressing why it's so important to be able to access from a place of priority. So once we have established all of these different issues and where they are occurring, then we can use any of our fundamental elements to be able to bring restoration into a person's space. So we can either use sound, light or colour at various frequencies or vibrational waves, and we do this through the projection of our consciousness. session with ourselves or with another recipient, we're going to use various tools to be able to access all of these different situations and to be able to choose all of these tools. And the way that we do that is to dialogue, but not necessarily dialogue, but it is a tool that's there for us if we wish to use it. We can then investigate. This is what we do when we access the source point. Then we can locate what the issue is and where the issue is found. Then by locating, we can retrieve the data or the information, and then we're ready to transform and reinforce the situation. The transformation happens with the tools that I mentioned a little earlier on, the sound, light or colour, and that's how we transform it. So if, for example, we have too much energy in a certain area, we can decrease it by using one of these tools, or vice versa. If there's not enough energy in a certain area, then we can increase it to bring the person's state into a certain form of balance. And then of course we can reinforce the changes that we've made. And to reinforce the changes that we've made, we use something that's called the golden light of infinite wisdom. And by projecting this golden light into the person's space, we reinforce the changes for them throughout all levels of their multidimensional being. In the foundation, we'll also cover issues such as cycles of existence, aspects of ego and karma, the creation and its purpose, that is, the creation of all things. We're going to explore the soul journey and the purpose of the soul journey, archetypal issues, the tattvas, and sacred geometry. Incidentally, tattvas is just another word for elements. We also look at prana, mantra and mudra. If we simplify the word mantra, it actually means sound codes or sonic codes, if you will, and mantra are actually hand circuitry. So all of these are extra tools, if you like, to help us to be able to establish a new source of well-being. We'll also be looking in great detail at the Merkaba, which is a journey that we take on day 7 that is guided, and it's also a very amazing journey that brings very amazing opening and access to new levels of our being. I hope that's helped to clarify some things about the foundation, and I hope to be with you again real soon. Namaste. So here we have our facilitator. Give him an F. Here we have source. I'll mark it with a cross. And here we have our recipient. Don't forget, it could be yourself or it could be somebody else. So in order for us to access the information, we need to connect to the source point, because this is where the connection is retrieved from. In order to connect to this point, we have 3 various processes. There's many more, but in foundation we learn 3. 1, 2, 3. 1 is called the Delta Portal, 1 is called the Lavda Portal, and 1 is called the Epsilon Portal. The reason why we learn 3 roadmaps plus is to give lots of contrast and variation to the facilitator. Each pupil or facilitator has a particular roadmap, 1, 2 or 3 or plus, that they happen to prefer. In the foundation we'll learn all 3. This gives us access to the source point, as we said earlier on. And this also gives us information about our recipient. So in our next drawing, here we have the source point. Here we have our facilitator. Give him an F. And over here we have our recipient. We've made our connection, either of the 3, as previously shown, to the source point where we retrieve the data. The data that can come up as our energy fields. The energy fields, 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth, going up to 7. Of course, there are more, but the main data of a person's space from their human energy field comes from 1, 2, 3, and all the way up to 7 energy fields. And as we spoke of earlier, each field contains a certain amount of information. This is all accessed at this point here. We can also access the 7 harmonic focal points, which are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And again, we can access information here about any of these 7 points here. Again, there are more than 7 harmonic focal points that extend out and beyond the energy field, but the 7, of course, are the main fundamental foundational points. We connect to here, and this gives us data about all of this here, which allows us to be very specific about the nature and kind of information and its imbalances, allowing us to become very effective in the results and the healing.